Okay, thanks for coming out. So, thank you so much, Moonshot and Bosch, for having us at this space. We are CHIVR. I founded CHIVR about a year ago, and we are the largest VR meetup in the Midwest. So, we host an event once a month. Let's clap for that. How many of you guys, is this your first time here at a CHIVR event? Raise your hand. Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. So be on the lookout for the next one. It'll be in December. I usually post it on our meetup page, our Facebook page. If you guys take any photographs, tag us, #CHIVR, CHIVR, Chicago VR. So I'm going to hand it off to Dennis, who's been with Bosch for a very long time. I want to thank him for putting this space together and having us here.
Hey, thank you. So warm welcome as well from my side to the Connectory. Probably a few words why you are here. So Connectory is the co-creation IoT space from Bosch, or sponsored by Bosch. We want to build the community here. So we are more than happy to have the VR piece added to it now. And it's really interesting to see that tonight we have, again, a completely different crowd of people. So whenever you add kind of additional pieces to it, we see how the community grows here. We are more than happy to have you all here. I'm very interested to see what's going on tonight. So co-creation for us means really to engage with everyone in the community and being around the different groups in the different areas that form the IoT space. So VR and artificial intelligence, VR, augmented reality, these are all pieces that are very relevant to us as a company as well. So we see a lot of you here probably for the first time in the context of Bosch as well, which is as well making us very happy because that was what we intended to do. So yeah, more than happy to listen to the panel as well as to the presentation, and curious to meet everyone that wants to engage with me. I will hang out for a while, even after the presentation and the panel, so reach out to me if you want to learn more about the Connectory. Thanks and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
So we'll open it up at the end for questions. And also we'll do project pitches. One of the missions that I had for starting CHIVR was to bring the technology and technology space together. So sharing projects, people, connecting the two. So think if you need help and you're working on a project, raise your hand afterwards and we'll be able to have you come up here and do like a 30-second pitch about something that you're doing or an event you're hosting. And then we'll have demos set up that you can try over here, drinks, and it'll be done by 9 o'clock. And Jeff, I want to hand it off to you. Thank you for making all this happen as well.
Thank you, Elina. My name is Jeff Kirk, and so I run a business called Moonshot, which is sponsoring this month's CHIVR event. So we're very thankful to be able to participate in the community. We met with Elina in our offices up on the 12th floor a couple of months ago and coordinated this, and now it's great to see it become a reality and to see so many friendly faces in the audience as well. Before I get started and tell you a little bit about what we do as a business and some learnings we brought with us today before we get into the panel, how many people have a VR headset at home? Okay, so that's, I mean, given this is the CHIVR event. Good. So Moonshot is an organization that's focused on bringing together design and intelligence to effectively create net new digital experiences for both physical, digital, and ultimately the immersive world that we're all pursuing. And so it's a very exciting time for all of us because we can start focusing in on how these ambient and immersive experiences combined with things like amplified intelligence, whether it be various kinds of artificial intelligence or big data sources, can all be put together to create solutions that increase the velocity of how businesses go to market or how they interact with their customers in a more expedient fashion. So it's a very exciting time for all of us to be speaking about these because this is such an emerging, nascent space that is going to be rapidly increasing in its footprint over the next couple of years. We're all starting to organize our businesses around how to create these new experiences together. And so it's going to take a community to all ideate around that and ultimately experiment together to find out what's going to win for businesses that are ultimately customer-centric. So beginning of October, our company sent a number of representatives out to San Jose to the Oculus Connect conference, Oculus Connect 4. Was anybody here at that? August? Kevin, gentleman back here. Great. So it's a very exciting time, and I think we're entering a turning point in that event where we're starting to see. In the past, a lot of participants were very focused on the gaming nature of VR. Now what we're starting to see is a lot of the participants are hyper-focused on the enterprise use of VR, the educational use of VR, and that's very exciting because I think we're starting to see the indicators that this is becoming a marketplace that we can all start to participate in various ways. So what happened at Oculus Connect? There were a couple of announcements related to hardware, which is exciting. So as we all know, when we put on a VR headset, it's somewhat of a limited experience because we're tethered to a very expensive, very heavy gaming rig, which is not very fun to share with your friends all the time. You want to show it off. So they're now pursuing an Oculus Santa Cruz headset that's untethered, that won't have all the sensors for tracking, which is very exciting, and I think we'll be seeing that next year. There's some improvements in the mobile components of their offering related to the headsets that they're offering, and a bunch of other improvements related to the SDKs, things like having your Windows desktop inside of the Oculus experience, so you never have to actually leave your VR experience to check in on your email or why your boss might be nagging you on Slack about where your deadline or deliverables are. So that's very exciting. And then, related to that, I think what we're finding is that, some of the learnings coming out of that conference is that, one, people are spending about 21 minutes at a time in a VR experience. So that's kind of the metric that everybody's measuring to yet. Generally, the general public isn't ready to spend their whole day in VR, a la the Ready Player One. So that will be our job to figure out how that balance occurs in everybody's real life. And so that's kind of what I brought for us today. We'll be happy to share any other information, and we'll get to the panel. Thank you.
The focus of this panel is mostly within mobile augmented reality, so you guys can kind of shine on that. I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself. August. Yeah.
Hey guys, my name is August. I work for a company called InContext Solutions. We do virtual reality retail store simulations. So a lot of you have heard this shtick already, so I'll go quickly through it. Our clients are retailers and manufacturers of consumer packaged goods, and they need software to visualize their stores, visualize their products on a shelf before they go to market, or to do market research on there. It works in a web browser, it works in VR, we're working on an AR application with HoloLens and AR Core and AR Kit, but it also works in a web browser, so we can send people through a market research study, and in a virtual store, before a product comes out to market, we can say, hey, do you like the red package or do you like the blue package? Do you like the blue package? Okay, good, we're gonna go to market with the blue package. That sort of thing. I currently am working on a couple side projects, specifically around augmented reality, and I think after the panel, we're going to show a music video that I shot using augmented reality, and I can kind of talk about that later on and stuff like that. Yeah! Yeah! Right.
We're going to show the music video right now.
Yeah.
My name is Marshall Warkentin. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for US Foods, which is a food distribution company. You may have seen our trucks. Quietly, we make about $24 billion worth of revenue distributing to restaurants, hotels, hospitals, every kind of commercial food service enterprise you can think of across the country. And you might think, well, why is he sitting here talking about virtual reality and augmented reality, and then you'll just have to hold your breath in.
All right, my name is Tom O'Keefe. I work for Heinz, a small food company, who works with both InContext and US Foods, so it's kind of a small world. I lead a team that focuses on consumer digital innovation, so we're kind of the internal technology evangelists. We work with lots of technology companies, startups, etc., on driving innovation inside Kraft Heinz now. We've got many different brands, everything from Planters to obviously Heinz, We also have Oscar Mayer, and that's probably one of the first virtual reality apps we did. We did a mobile one in 2015. One of the big questions are hot doggers. Those are the people who get to drive the Wienermobile get asked is, can I go for a ride? Insurance being what it is, that can't be a yes thing. So we kind of answer that with a virtual reality app. So whenever people meet the hot doggers at events, they get to take a virtual ride in the Wienermobile. So that's been kind of a very fun thing that we're able to do there, and even give out headsets that go with it, which I'll give out for people who ask questions later. So I got to get rid of. I've got an inventory from 2015. I gotta get rid of.
I have
but anything on my desk.
headsets.
Okay, do you have one of
I've got
those?
a handful,
Okay,
yeah.
they're good ones.
You got some Heinz relish on
Need some ketchup in my my little bit messy.
Not in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, not hot dog sauce. We have Heinz hot dog sauce. Yeah.
Okay, we'll pass it down. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. We'll start off with the first question, which kind of leads to, what are customers, how are customers going to interact with AR in this space? And in you as influencers and decision makers for these brands, tell us a little bit more about what innovations your company is bringing into the mass public in the AR space.
So obviously, or maybe not obviously, a lot of us know that kind of games are kind of the Trojan horse to get this new technology into more people's hands, right? There's a ton of VR games, and I think the most popular AR game ever created in the history of the planet was the Pokemon Go game, right? It's a way to get it into consumers' hands, get them comfortable with the technology, but we're slowly going to creep in that technology into the business side of the world. I work for a company that serves, our clients are CPGs. Imagine you're a stock boy at a big box store, and you've got to fill out the vitamin section, right? And if you've ever looked at a vitamin section in a retail store, there's thousands of little SKUs, little bottles on the shelf, and what these guys have are they have a black and white spreadsheet, and they go, okay, D12 is supposed to go in this position, and then they go find it, okay, and then they take it off the cart and they put it on the shelf, right? So what if we give this stock person an augmented reality headset, like a HoloLens that has cameras on it that can do photo recognition of the label and say, okay, D12, it's here, it's supposed to be here, so we'll highlight that in red, and when you put it in the right spot, we'll highlight it in green, or that we can connect the planogram file to the software to let like he picks up the D12 bottle and okay, it's got to go over here, and it just helps him get through his job. I mean, there are so many people in America right now, so many people that are being employed by these companies where they work the midnight to 6 a.m. shift, and all they're doing is stocking the shelves, and it costs a lot of money. And if we can come up with a solution to help them through that task so they can get their job done quicker, everyone benefits from that except for the poor stock guy who doesn't get any hours anymore. But it'll trickle down, I'm sure. But I mean, that's one application for augmented reality that I can see coming soon. I know there are a lot of companies that are working on that right now in the AR space.
Sure. So admittedly, I'm probably the biggest fanboy at work with AR and VR, so I'm maybe a little bit overly optimistic, but we have found some pretty interesting uses of it. So I mentioned the virtual reality we did for a brand experience, which was really fun and really kind of a neat way to engage. But since then, we found, I'll call it more practical, non-marketing, but business to business. So we do use InContext, and we actually use that when we go visit with our teams that go out and visit retail customers. So if they want to talk about redesigning a shelf or something in the store, it's a much better way to kind of present it than a PowerPoint or kind of a drawing of it. They're able to actually kind of take them through a model of that particular retailer store and show it in that particular context. So that's been a very useful, kind of powerful tool. We've also used AR just kind of as an assistant, we've been doing some work with companies that allow you to take pictures of shelf sets and then digitize them. And that's a powerful thing, but if the person taking the pictures isn't doing it right, things won't work out. So actually having that AR helper that's going to guide them through the process has been really useful and kind of improved the quality of what the process is, as well as the end product about the machine learning, what it can do with those resulting images.
Yeah, no question training, no question in terms of learning. For us, where we started is really in terms of telling a story. And if you can find a way to match, as a marketer, something that a customer might be passionate about or interested in, and tell a story that's immersive and potentially transformative to them using that experience, it's incredible. And if it can be the first time that person actually experiences it, they'll never forget it. That's what's really, I think, unique about this time still, because there's still, probably in most rooms, half the people or less haven't actually put on a virtual reality headset yet. Like anything, you typically remember your first experience with something that's transformative. And if it can be your brand that delivers that, that's pretty amazing to be that opportunity. And that's what we were able to do. And with our goal as a food service distributor, we've been trying to transform our perception as just being a truck, right? The Oscar Mayer movie, how long has the Oscar Mayer movie been around? 30 years. 30? Since the 30s. Wow.
Since Cars.
Since Cars, yeah. It's Oscar Mayer Minimal Wagon, I think. Wagon.
It's amazing that it lasted out of the 30s. Yeah, so, since we've been around since the 18-something, but we've always been perceived as a truck, right? And our customers have thought of us as, you bring these boxes of food, as long as it's fresh, it's on time, and it's the right price, leave me alone, right? So it's a race to a commodity scenario. So what we've tried to do is change that by telling stories and by amplifying our food leadership. And one of our brands is called Stockyards, which is a fresh meat cut shop, high-end steaks we deliver to a lot of restaurants around here. And what we've learned through our brand is that a transformative experience for our customers is when they get to tour a cut shop, when they actually get to see the expert butchers cutting the meat, the aging of the meat, all of that experience. Now, we have thousands of customers, we have 2,000 salespeople, and so we can't get all of our customers to our cut shops, but what we can do is we can bring an immersive experience to them in their back of house, so they can actually experience it without leaving their own restaurant. And so we've taught our salespeople, our experts, our specialists, to actually how to use the technology. It's a higher end headset, and most of our customers, they haven't experienced any of this before. They're blown away by it. Not only the technology, it's a 7-minute experience from farm. You skip the little slaughterhouse experience and go straight to the cutting. But it's been a real great. We thought about it, Transparency. But it's been a great tool for us.
And I think when you frame the customer problem at hand, since we're all supposed to be very customer-centric, we start looking at, okay, what is first their last best experience, and that's generally the measuring stick. So yesterday, someone could have downloaded the next, I think it's Harry Potter's, the next Pokemon Go, AR experience that's going to be really popular, and you're going to be measured by how exciting and how lovable that experience is. And then what we do is we take a lot of our empathy work related to the customer and really try to understand what pain points they're feeling. And generally we feel if you're focused on what pain the customer is feeling, independent of the technology or the channel, you're going to ultimately be able to arrive at a successful solution to that domain problem, right? So I think that's really applicable to this space because it's been so hyper-focused on games at this point. We can start to really quickly iterate through new experiences that they can love in ER, or I'm sorry, in mobile AR in this case, even though there's these significant roadblocks. Generally, you have to download an app still to get into an AR experience. It's hard for a standard person in the App Store to understand how to interact with AR. And the more compelling you can make that experience, so they're willing to learn or be trained by you, that's really a great way to get over those obstacles.
Awesome, and moving on to
I
another.
can I just add one thing real quick?
I don't know.
All right, well, fine.
Fine.
I don't have to. I just want to kind of point out here, okay, so we've got all these stories from US Foods, from Kraft Heinz, right? Two of the most arguably, and no offense, sorry or not sorry, boring companies, right? This is US Foods. The only visibility that you have to the general public is that truck, right?
That's right.
And so how do you make your company exciting and sexy, and how do you come up, you use virtual reality or 360 video or augmented reality as a storytelling tool? I can't tell you how many times I've seen people firsthand get excited about Monterey Jack cheese in some of the software that I've built for Kraft. And you know, they can pick up this cheese pack and they can hold it and it's high resolution. I'm like, oh my God, it's cheese! You know, it's the most boring thing on the planet. But as a storytelling tool, he can take this into their clients, into their retailers, and tell a story, the story that they want to tell, which is that we think the Monterey Jack cheese should go here instead of here. But it works better, the medium of virtual reality works better than a PowerPoint presentation or a spreadsheet or anything else. And I just wanted to make that point that VR, AR, XR, whatever, is primarily a storytelling tool that you can use to get your idea across more effectively.
Yeah, I guess it's that emotional connection that you have with the product that really makes it memorable. And on that note, 2018 on the horizon, budgets, right? How much money you have allocated for this kind of space, and what kind of teams are you building? Are you guys using consultants outside, or bringing people in-house full-time? What is the hiring trends in within the major companies? Maybe it's Marshall first.
Yeah, I mean, now that we've got a bit of an infrastructure for it, we're not hiring a full-time team on this piece for sure, but we're looking to add more content, definitely, where it makes sense. I think, the next one for us is seafood, right? Let's go and visit a sustainable, facility. Let's go observe what those practices look like. Go out to a farm out in, fishing farm somewhere out in Iceland or whatever. And what's great is our vendors, our vendor partners are willing to engage in that, right? They're willing to fund this, right? Because they see the power in it, and we want to invest in new things.
There's a marketing opportunity.
It definitely is. So that's one place, and then the other place is, on the training side and on the learning side, we have 6,000 trucks out there, and just last week, I hate to say it, but one of our trucks happened to be involved with an accident. It actually happened to be involved with an accident with a driverless vehicle in California that was just being filmed. It was in the news. It was bad luck. Yeah, it transforms with no fault.
You guys are famous.
Yeah. So, a virtual scenario may have helped avoid that, for our drivers, for our selectors, right, in our warehouses and everything else. So, there's a lot of opportunities for us, but we're not bleeding edge. We want to be leading edge. And we want to be a little more sexy than we are.
Well, it's not difficult to be more sexy than GFS for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, budgets are tight, right, especially for large enterprises, and saying, hey, we're gonna be bleeding edges can be a struggle. We take a little bit different approaches. We do have a small team, we call our digital innovation team, and we are focused primarily on being disruptive, and so what we bring some funding. It's not tons of funding, but it's kind of like that seed funding. And what our goal is to look for that new technology, or maybe just a new use case for the technology, and then we do pilots. Because I think, as you talk about the first experience with AR, first experience with VR, until you see it, you just have no concept of it, right? So especially even the kind of the store modeling, describing that and saying it's going to cost this much does not go over very well. But actually, for someone to see it and experience that difference makes a huge impact. And so what we try to do is do these quick pilots. That's actually the original thing we did with the Wienermobile, was just to do something, right? It's hard to decide as an organization how you're going to expand if you've done nothing with it. There's an amazing number of great ideas in large companies that live and die in PowerPoint. They just never make it off of it. So we try to find those really, really small pilots, proof of concepts that hopefully will create a business case to do a larger expansion. So my suggestion would be is if you are working with large enterprise customers, try to figure out what that small, viable product, how are you going to give them something that they're going to taste and just be able to see. I remember actually so internally we kind of have to roll that probably a lot of you have as far as pitching. So it was probably shortly after the Google Cardboard came out. I thought it'd be fun for the brands. I took a Google Cardboard, I slapped in a bunch of things I printed out so it looked like a Wienermobile, and then took it up to the brand team. I think at the time the only app I could find was this Dive City Coaster. I don't know if anyone remembers that one. It's probably the first, everything had to be an app because this is before Google, YouTube could support it, and took that up there. Now, it wasn't a perfect experience, but at least I could get the brand manager, et cetera, to understand what's possible. So that would be the suggestion. There's always funding for good ideas, but you need to kind of make it in the door and help to kind of get them in that right mindset before they'll commit.
Yeah. And I think it's important to also remember that the other vertical industries, so after, for example, you eat all the US Foods restaurants and you have all the CPG products, there's healthcare industries, for example, where there's real applicable uses of this in that space where you can start to, as a team member in one of those organizations, start to make a real case to your management about experimenting with AR and mobile. For example, there's concepts such as screen reduction, right? Physicians are faced with problems related to how many screens they're working with at the end of the day, and ultimately there's a lot of times a screen between the physician and the patient, which is not necessarily the most customer-centric world when it comes to healthcare. And so, I think that when you start to think about it from a team member in one of those organizations, it's really important. We're seeing team members have success in this idea that Tom alluded to, of metered funding. So getting small batches of money, attaching progress to those and demonstrating progress, and generally we're seeing sort of a startup culture take a hook in these large enterprises that's enabling these kinds of experiences. And so I think that's very exciting. And then this idea of KPIs too is really important, because I think that the standard KPIs, whether you're marketers or business operators, there's a new set of KPIs that I think are being developed around these experiences, because things like standard conversion funnels don't necessarily map to like the 3D exploration space, or the fact that you're interacting with all kinds of content in a virtual space. And so you need to really rapidly be smart about how to create new KPIs and metrics, and then ultimately you'll be able to...
What's a KPI? I don't know what a KPI is.
Key performance indicator.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now I know. Yeah.
And use the retail.
Yeah, so I think it's ultimately...
I should know that. I should know that.
You should know
There are no
that.
questions.
Yeah, August, I'm a different kind of nerd.
So it's exciting, right? So if you're really trying to do this in your organization, it does take a different approach. You have to be experimental, and you have to try to work with every dollar that you may or may not get, and try to remember to focus on what the customer ultimately going to love, and focus on that minimum lovable product. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see some success related to your product if you take that mindset.
Awesome, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. How many people here are actually working on AR, VR, mixed reality, 360 video project? Raise your hands. Who are content creators here? Raise your hands. Okay, cool, awesome. If you don't mind, would you mind sharing a project maybe you guys are working on specifically for 2018 or the new year that maybe a little bit more cutting edge or a little more exciting for the consumers?
I wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, exposure.
Well, I kind of alluded to it already.
Yeah.
Right now, sustainable seafood is huge, really important. It's a big growing area for us. It's a double-digit category for us.
Why seafood?
I think it's just this
It's a big
the
problem.
sustainability. Yeah, the issue of sustainability is particularly potent in the hearts of restaurant companies, restaurant owners, and so that area for us is important, both in terms of tracking, demonstrating that the product that we're selling is sustainable, but then, like I said, the immersive experience you know, if a customer is passionate about something, they're willing to dive deep into understanding it. And that's where a technology like this is best suited. You know, on cheese, you know, maybe if you find the right cheese people, you're gonna, you know.
I'm big on cheese.
In this instance, for us, we're kind of seeing that as an opportunity. When we host big events, where they're, you know, the historic, you know, food service thing is called a food show, where you know, typically happens in a hotel. You invite every restaurant that you can in the whole greater, you know, whatever the city area is, and typically it's a tasting, right? And over the years, so you know, it's good. No, it's good. It's good, but it's not particularly transformative. What's great is, you know, you bring thousands of customers in to an event like this, and you sort of have them captive, and you put them through this virtual reality, and it's like, oh, you know, you've got the opportunity to get, you know, hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, experiencing the technology over the course of a few hours.
So
and then you actually put the product right next to where the experiences occur, and really then that becomes an economic, like a transactional experience where you can actually turn the technology experience into an actual purchase. And then hopefully you know, if the customer likes it, they scan a barcode, and then you've got their e-commerce link, and you can follow up with the products that are interested in.
So you've, real quick, you've had, at these food shows, you give them a VR or 360 video experience.
Yep.
And, I mean, what did you show them what
We actually put them in a box. We put them in a literal stockyards box.
Uh-huh.
It's backlit. You're surrounded by a field. We
Uh-huh.
chose the field. We didn't choose the slaughterhouse. And they sit together, and they put on the thing, and they get a tour as you know, as they experience the food show.
And so out of that, I mean, have you seen that create like an emotional connection for them towards your product that you're trying to sell them?
Absolutely. I mean, it is an event is, I mean, in our business, getting people outside their comfort zone to actually go somewhere and think about their business, you know, take that time and do that. That's the opportunity to actually change somebody's perception of whatever they're, you know, interested in. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a moment to actually capitalize on so somebody behaves differently. Right? That's the marketing challenge. It isn't just something that's entertaining for entertainment's sake, or something that's interesting because it's a cool technology. It's actually something that, as a result of experiencing it, I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to buy something different. I'm going to become more loyal to a brand. And through that disruptive experience, especially because they're outside of their environment, they're more willing to do that. And so we found it to be a very, you know, effective medium for us as a result.
Cool.
Yeah, the one I'll call it in-flight thing is using augmented reality just as a training aid. So maybe that's not even, you actually have something so intuitive that they don't actually need the training. And we have sales reps who call on different retailers, and they've got very little time in that environment. And one of the things we want to do is kind of capture what's the current state of that shelf set in there. And the one partner we're working with has technology. Not only does it do the kind of the machine learning image recognition, which is pretty amazing, but it's all based on having that really good photo. And I think just the way the tool works as far as showing them not only how to take the pictures, but also kind of overlay, is pretty much eliminating our ability to need to do training, and it's going to help with its adoption. I do think, you know, I'll call that, on the other side of projects, we have had one project that just we couldn't get over the edge, and that was using augmented reality to kind of place a kind of physical object in the store to be able to show it. It was interesting, but it just didn't do enough. So there's still some, you know, there's still a real challenge sometimes getting over that investment curve that you sometimes have to overcome. I am kind of really excited to see, you know, with some of the new technologies, such as you know, Apple's coming out with, and you know, where you might be able to have the technology be much more realistic in those physical environments. I think there's, I will say some things with mobile VR and mobile AR has been a little bit stagnant. It just in what, ultimately it comes down to what equipment people are carrying with them, right?
Yeah.
Right, so it hasn't been, that really hasn't changed as much as we would like to see in the last 2 years. But I think that's gonna change a lot more with kind of like a Connect-like cameras being in phones, with like Face ID, that technology, especially when you kind of turn it around and face the world. I think the experiences you're gonna create are gonna be much more intriguing.
Yeah, because a lot of people, say, am I really gonna buy a headset? Am I really gonna put this on and, and enjoy an experience? No, probably not. So why AR? Why mobile? Right?
Yeah, so the easiest answer as to why mobile is, raise your hand if you don't have a smartphone. Oh, there's one, all right. So about 1% of the population. Maybe a little less. They don't have a smartphone. You already have a computer in your pocket. Everyone has it. You don't leave it. You're not away from it for more than 5 seconds, right? So if we can get the performance and the optimization of these VR games, because whatever experience you're doing in VR, AR, whatever, it's a game, right? Even if it's the most boring game in the world where you're playing with pepper jack cheese. It's really difficult to optimize your content and optimize your assets to work well enough where you can put it on a mobile headset, get it running at 60 frames a second, which is kind of like the threshold for mobile VR. I can show you guys afterwards. I've got a little app on my phone where I experimented with our content. I tried to get it to work on the Daydream, and our content was so difficult. Our content was difficult to work with because I'm not an expert on this, but I could max out at about 13 frames a second, and it just wasn't good enough for a VR experience where you have your phone strapped to your face, and it just wasn't good enough, and it looked like crap, and I'm like, But I took it out of my Daydream headset, and I looked at the screen from this distance, and I saw it, I'm like, oh, that actually looks okay, so maybe it's just a mobile app, but it doesn't work in VR. So the biggest challenge is you really have to dumb down your graphics. We don't have a GTX 1080 in our pockets. It's just not possible right now, right? We need to get to that point, and we will eventually, but desktop VR is always gonna be a step above mobile VR, and that's just the fact of the matter. But the reason why companies need to target mobile VR is because everybody's got a smartphone, right? It's the price of entry, the cost of entry into that is so much cheaper. Everyone's gonna have a smartphone anyway, so boom, you've got your distribution, right? One of the reasons the PlayStation VR was so successful was because they have 40 million PlayStations just out in the wild. You pay another $400 and you get a VR headset. I mean, you already have that mass adoption. You already have that mass, input into the households of all these people. So PSVR has sold more VR headsets, even though the Rift and the Vive are technically better products, in my view, anyway. I don't want to get into anything more. That's kind of where I see it. Mobile VR is the first step to get people to adopt it.
Right, and I think that, building on the why mobile VR, we have these amazingly powerful smartphones, and if you're a student of microprocessors or the history of that, what's in your pocket now it's more powerful than a Cray supercomputer back in the day. It's incredible, and what that ultimately allows us to do is think about solutions that leverage all that power. And when you think about a business thinking about why would they go into mobile AR, what problem is it going to solve? And I think a lot of businesses are starting to wrap their heads around the space of solving for our labor problems in general. And so when you think about mobile AR, if you're a Best Buy or a retailer and you have a labor force like a Geek Squad, you start to think about how can you augment that labor force and potentially either make it more efficient or kind of reduce your headcount or offer new services through that existing headcount. And so when you start really thinking about the macro business levers and drivers and then how these new technologies can be inserted in that equation, and ultimately start changing the conversation around that technology in the enterprise. As, oh, we're using a mobile AR to solve our labor problem. That's when all of a sudden fun new conversations start to begin. It starts to become a mature capability in the organization, and it's not a game anymore. And so that's why I think mobile AR is so compelling. It's now in billions, maybe hundreds of millions of devices in our pockets right now with ARKit. We're really excited about that, and we're really excited to see kind of how people start solving some of these general problems with it.
Well, in full disclosure, Moonshot has been helping us for years on that effort, really, to leverage technology in a world where people are choosing it over people, right? And so you have to meet that need as it's happening, in a way that is more delightful than the salesperson or the support person, or whoever the other person is. We in 2012, when we started working with you, is that about right? We had, call it 4,500 salespeople that called on restaurants. Every day would walk in with their book or whatever, their laptop, and sell to restaurants. Today we have just over 2,000. And our sales has grown by maybe $5 billion since then. It's been technology that has offset that experience. And hopefully, delighted customers with a faster, cheaper, better experience, while we've hopefully retained the better 2,000 salespeople through that process. And so, the challenge for us is to continue to enable content and commerce to exceed expectations. And I think we're still in the early days as far as that goes. I think customers still, have low expectations around that stuff. And whether it's, exactly, there's tons more there in this space for sure. I don't think there are many great examples of really where the content turns to commerce and vice versa, is enabled in a way that turns into a commercial opportunity, like I think we'll see in maybe 5 to 10 years around this technology. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're just getting started. You think about maybe you go to the hospital and have an ultrasound to see your new indent in the stomach, and then you think about it in an AR perspective, and you can actually visualize that on the person versus seeing it on a screen, or seeing a CT scan on the person versus on a screen. And it starts being a lot more human experience, which is very exciting. I'm clearly over-indexing on healthcare tonight, but there's a lot of opportunity in a lot of spaces. And so, I think this community would be great to hear what you guys are working on, because there's certainly diamonds in the rough. There are great ideas that are being net new business models that we haven't even thought of. We have clients thinking about AR and mobile in the transportation space, how to optimize fleets and how to maintain those fleets, and all the IoT devices that happen to be on those trucks. There's hundreds of them, and onboard computers, and the use cases are just almost insurmountable from a community perspective. So it's just really interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I think one thing to add is when you think about mobile versus desktop, obviously I think desktop's going to be a superior experience.
It'd be a premium.
It's a premium experience, but I think it's going to be a niche experience, just because if you're talking about the computers in our product, which are getting pockets, which are getting more and more expensive, you're talking between, do I buy a new $1,000 phone or a desktop? Most people are going to go with that. And so if you're talking about consumer experiences, if you're going to you want any sort of mass adoption, it's going to be mobile. Even enterprises, right? These are especially publicly traded companies. We talked to a lot of startups, the idea about the challenges about being publicly traded aren't always clear. But generally, if they're using it, it's because they already have the device, whether it's a mobile phone or an iPad, they're already using it for something else. This is just one more use case. The good news is that they're upgrading might have fairly powerful iPads, but the idea that they would buy then another device specifically for an AR or virtual reality experience, it's just likely not going to happen. And so from a practical standpoint, if you're looking at who you would develop for, or how you approach that, these are just kind of realities to understand. I think we have talked about, I know with the store modeling, just that ability to have that premium experience, but almost kind of have like that take-home version of it. So that way the one experience kind of creates a halo effect. So that's kind of there's a nice kind of opportunity to kind of complement one another. But yeah, if definitely wanting to get to the scale, it's always going to be through the mobile.
Well, this has been very insightful. Thank you for sharing your insight on the AR mobile developments in this space. I'm going to open this up to questions. Right over here.
I have a question for the gentleman in the center that works for the, not a truck company. You mentioned that you developed a 7-minute VR experience to walk through the meat process. Have you found that the technology has allowed your sales reps to have longer interactions with restaurants? Or have you found that the technology allows you to have shorter interactions that lead to higher results?
I'd say neither, actually. So I mean, what we do is we tend to, the reason why I say that is we tend to accompany the VR with a specialist. So somebody who is really knowledgeable in the stuff. So
In VR or in
no,
food?
not in VR. No, in food.
Okay.
So specifically in what we call center of the plate, which is the meat, right? Center of the plate is, and for us, you own center of the plate. You get a customer buying the meat, you generally get the rest of the business. So it's really, really valuable for us. So what we do is we bring a center of the plate specialist with that technology. Customer watches it. It invariably turns into a longer interaction with the specialist, not with the salesperson. The salesperson there accompanies, like the day-to-day salesperson accompanies the specialist, and we turn it into what we hope is a transformative experience. That gets them loyal to the brand and starting to buy it, right? So
it's a better lead-in?
It's a lead-in, particularly for customers that are buying maybe meat from a specialist, right? Like from a meat guy, right? Because we're considered more of the broad distributor, not the meat guy. I've got a meat guy, I've got my, fresh produce guy, these are trucks that, maybe you're really loyal to and used to. We have to kind of disrupt that. So we bring a specialist to say, hey, we know what we're talking about in this space. So it's not just the technology, it has to kind of be surrounded by something.
Awesome. Question? Right over here.
I have a question about earlier. A use case was mentioned for stocks and store shelves where the headset would tell the employee where to put which item where.
Mm-hmm.
In those cases, is VR just a stopgap because couldn't just automate the entire process with a robot? Since the computer knows exactly what it is.
Yeah, you can totally do that. That's totally a plausible thing to have a robot come into your store and stock your shelves for you. Do you want to build that?
Yeah.
It's a snarky way to say we're using it is a stopgap, yes.
What store, if you're talking future? No, but I mean, what store? If you're going too far out there, is there?
Grocery stores.
No, but if you're talking the future, is there a grocery store? Right, so
Yeah, I mean.
You're going ahead.
Yeah, exactly. What store?
So the use case for
Rotating product.
using AR to help a stock person stock. Yeah, ultimately, in the future, we'll have robots do everything. I mean, Amazon has their test store where they just, you walk in, you grab something, and you just walk out, you don't pay, right? Maybe you pay eventually. But that's kind of like on the consumer side of things. The retail side of that would definitely be, having, what's the name of that robot? There's Pepper. Pepper's one of them. There's a robot that. Walmart.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's one called Savio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a robot that goes through in all the aisles. It photographs all the products on the shelves. It has a copy of the planogram as it should be, right? And it can tell, okay, we're low on this is in the wrong spot, this price tag is wrong, and by the way, I'm not gonna run into anybody or run over your puppy, right? So that's happening right now, right? Walmart has their test store, it's called store number 8 or something like that. That's their kind of test bed for testing new technology. They're using that robot, there was just an article about it not too long ago. They're using that robot to go through the shelves and automate, give tasks to humans right now to restock the shelves. The next iteration of that is to remove the human out of that equation, and nobody will have a job ever again.
Right, and I think the addressing correctly then is that most organizations
Yeah, you don't
don't
have to
have
work.
I don't want to resources to do robotics at this point, right? You look at the capital expenditures required to get into robotics, the team members included in that, and then just even the general organizational knowledge to have that roll out. It's very difficult. And so if you think about it, if you take it from an experimentation perspective, you're working with small budgets, it's very applicable to be able to go find an iOS developer that can start to use ARKit and start to experiment with how you visualize this in AR. And if you have success, and then you can attach it to the business's success, then you can think about the outlay of capital required to get into robotics.
Awesome. Last question. Right over here. Here. Give me a mic.
No, it's okay. I'm a brand manager at a CPG, so it's very helpful to hear you guys speak about different use cases in your own businesses. But thinking about takeaways for myself, a big challenge no matter whether it's consumer experience at a festival or buyers at a trade show or training employees is always scale. And wanting to achieve these, really rich experiences at scale. So is it a matter of maybe doing some of that internal influence to really change the perspective and KPI around the depth of the experience, or is there a solution in the future that we can achieve these experiences at scale?
I think sometimes the challenge, we have the technology, and sometimes we're talking to the brand managers and figure out what that right fit is. Sometimes the hardest thing is to figure out what is the actual brand challenge, the business challenge you're solving for, because that usually will have there'll be a number to it, right? If we solve this, what would be the value? The challenge sometimes is when you're like, that's cool, let's try it. You're like, did it solve the problem? You're like, it's cost this much, but I don't really know what it augmented, how it helped. So that can sometimes be the challenge. So we view it, this technology, sometimes we kind of try to break out that challenge, and even if they're saying, I want to try this, we'll try to make sure we truly understand what it is. And then maybe even we do pitch days or others, just to make sure we're finding the right solution for the problem. Because if we're not doing that, it's not gonna pay off. If it pays off, then you'll be able to scale it. If you can't get over that hurdle, it'll just be a one-time at a festival or something else like that.
I think it's no different than decades-old marketing challenges, right? If you start with the technology, that's a problem, right? So it's figuring out how to scale it. It's really thinking about the customer first. Like who are you trying to reach and what story you're trying to tell? I mean, it sounds really, really simple. And then it gets a little easier in terms of how to get there, and tell the story. And in our case, I was at an event where I saw that a charity story, Charity Water was the brand. And they didn't need scale. They just needed the right people to put on the thing, and see the story of how they brought water to a remote community in rural Africa. It was just, for me, it was unbelievable. Like just to see that, to actually go into the hut and then to go walk to the pond where they're grabbing in a virtual reality experience, it was unbelievable. It's like, where do I sign the check? As soon as I saw that. And then I, sort of gathered myself and said, okay, well, how do I exploit this idea? I think that's the thing, right? It's the scale will be there if you figure out who the right customer is.
Awesome. And what we're going to do now is have pitches. If you have a project you're working on and you want the community's help, my whole mission of starting CHIVR has been to bring the community together. That way, Chicago could be a hub for content creators, influencers, as well as brand and marketing specialists and enthusiasts. So I'm going to hand it off to Chris.
Good evening, my name is Christopher. I'm one of the leaders here of CHIVR. I want to do a little bit of a member poll first off. I guess we'll start with who has never been to CHIVR before. Raise your hand. Awesome, that's a great turnout. Thank you, everyone, and thank you everyone else who's been to CHIVR before for coming out tonight. Let me see, raise the hands of people that are not sure what to do with VR. Maybe you're a brand person, maybe you're a developer and you're interested in maybe using VR. All right, so 3 of you, 4 of you. All right. And then again, like Elina said, how many people are currently working in VR or on a VR project? All right, so a lot of people. Great. So now what we're gonna do, now that we know each other a little better, we're gonna go around the room at random, and we're gonna invite people up here to tell us a little bit about what you're working on, and how maybe, you can reach out to people here in our community. So, if you have something that you want to talk about and you don't have stage fright, raise your hand.
George.
All right, I guess George is the first man.
Yeah.
Come on up here, George. Tell us what's going on.
So I am not pitching a project, but I'm giving you guys opportunities. So I'm with the Chicago Creative Coalition. We're a group of designers, creative professionals, animators, artists, etc. So tomorrow evening, we're doing an event that I will be hosting at WeWork on Fulton Avenue. So it's going to be how to create and design and paint and sculpt in VR. So if you're interested in learning how to make things, I'm going to be there. We'll have a couple of Oculus headsets and touch controllers, and basically we're going to show you what people are making, how to do all these crazy things, and then give you a chance to try and make some for yourself. So if you've never done that sort of thing, it can be kind of a really life-changing experience. So come check it out. If you want more info, go to ChicagoCreative.org, and you'll see a banner at the top that says Design in VR, which is tomorrow, and you can RSVP, and there's free booze and things.
Oh, I'll be better. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so if you're interested in that, make sure you hit up George. Who else? Who else? Who's got something? Raise your hand. Don't be scared. Lamar, come on up here. Tell us what you got going on.
And I kind of want to ask the question I didn't ask also. So I head up a boutique architecture or design firm, and really heavily involved in public arts. An event that I just did recently took VR actually, and had some artists sort of virtually painting, and we sort of projection mapped an abandoned railway tunnel. So that's some of the ways that I use it. Other ways that I'm using it are to reimagine the West Loop. As I'm currently redesigning, that was a neighborhood that was designed for a specific purpose, and now it's densifying and changing. So my studio is developing some pretty novel applications and ideas to reimagine the streets and how that neighborhood would work. The question I had a lot to do with food processing. As we are at this sort of really interesting point where we've gone from the stockyards and we've named a line of food after that, which was all about butchering, and you decided to skip over that. And now in Fulton Market District, the West Loop, that's sort of the last commissioning houses and butchers. That's going away. So the connection to the food has completely disappeared. I would think it would be incumbent upon food manufacturers and distributors to educate restaurants and chefs about, cuts of meat, where they come from, the animals, stuff like that. So bleeding edge, why did you skip over the blood?
Hi.
Good question.
We skipped over it. I guess we just decided that it, probably wasn't the moment for that experience. Like the actual moment wasn't the experience we were going for. But you're absolutely right.
Maintain a connection to where food comes.
Yeah, where it comes from is key, right? And that, other than that moment of truth, that the air gun, it's all there, right? And it's legitimate. But you're absolutely right. We a few years ago launched a brand called Serve Good, which it's all about reaching the customer with a authentic, sustainable, and local story, right? And we are delivering to every type of restaurant that has every type of need. But we need to be challenged to continue to tell that story in a world where it's less visible. So thank you for that comment. Thank you for that challenge.
Awesome. We'll do one more pitch.
My man's been raising his hand really high over here. Come on, brother, tell us what you got.
Mine will be short and sweet. You guys, if you've been here before, you've probably seen it before. I'm doing super cat herding literally right here after this. So you guys can play with superpowered cats. Who doesn't like superpowered cats? So
I know.
August doesn't like superpowered cats. So come up here, you can play some super cat herding.
Since that was a short pitch,
Kittens.
You've had, you want to pitch out? Yeah?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Me? Yeah. I probably don't need a mic, it could be really loud. So, hello everyone, my name is Glenda, and I started a small company about 2 years ago that helps students with the most inevitable struggle they have is where to go to college, what to go to school for, the unknown, basically. A lot of high school students will come out of, whatever, high school, and they're like, oh, I think I want to go to UIC, and I think I want to be an engineering student. And they get into the program, they're like, well, maybe this is not really what I'm here for. It's not my place, this is not where I want to be. And then they have to switch over programs, they lose money, lose time, and etc. So we're here to basically expose that to them and obviously help minimize certain skills gap, increase student acquisitions, and etc. If you are interested in helping, being a part of the project, being employed by us, please let me know. We'll talk. Okay. You geeked.
Oh.
Last but not least, last one.
Come on up here, lady. And
Yeah, and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Judy Turk, and let me ask you a question. How many of you have used an attorney in the past couple of years for anything? Did you find them expensive? Did you know who to call? Let me ask another question. How many of you have had your identity stolen? I used to go into a room and ask that question, and I would say 1 out of every 2 of you will have your identity stolen. Today I go into a room and I say 98% of you will have your identity stolen. My company will, first of all, restore that identity for you, okay? And they monitor you 24/7. And we also offer you top law firms, not just an attorney, top law firms with lawyers that specialize in every phase of the law, nationwide and in Canada, for less than $1 a day. If you want to talk further about it, I have plenty of cards with me.
And on that note, we're going to be here till 9 o'clock. Grab some more food, grab some more drinks.
I'll put a video on too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Show us the video.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a music video. You don't have to watch it. I don't care.
No, show us.
I'll put it up on the thing in a second.
Before we head out,
Freestyle.
if you guys have an awesome space, talk to me. We'd love to host a CHIVR at one of your company's locations. And otherwise, have an awesome night. Follow us on Facebook, Eventbrite, Meetup, Instagram, and our Slack.
And if you want to join our Slack channel, email me, dan@chivr.org, chivr.org, and I will send you an invite to our Slack channel, which gets, we put out news and what's going on, all the meetups and stuff like that.